Here's the updated version of the Q&As of 11 and 4. Watch it to the end. The implementation agreement will state something like this. The TP250, RE45, and the XE45 will be combined into one board established as the TP250, RE45. So the new TP250, RE45 will assume all the responsibilities for what currently is the RE45 and the XE45. Plus, if there's additional responsibilities that are stated within this implementation agreement. So the 11 and 4 boards that will be available will be the Fort Worth RE45, the Fort Worth RE46, the Fort Worth RE65, the RE50, and the RE55. Out of Mesquite DIT, it'll be the RE82. Dallas will have the RE85. Denison will have the RE46. And Chico will have the Chico Rock Pool or the RE44. We don't have this information yet. This will be determined by CMS as they regulate all the boards that are 11 and 4 and 6 and 2, and they will give us the numbers that we will implement with 2 weeks before implementation. All right, so we'll run down this list of boards. So the Fort Worth RE45 will cover Fort Worth to McAllister, dog catching from the MAC side, also cover the MFWDN job, and then they will also cross protect the RE46 if the RE46 is exhausted. The Fort Worth RE46 will take trains from Fort Worth to Chickasha, dog catch trains from Chickasha, also cover the LBJ 77, which goes on duty at Peach right now, goes to Chico and turns back, and then cross protect the RE45 if exhausted. The Fort Worth RE65 will take trains from Fort Worth to Hearn and Taylor, dog catch trains from Hearn and Taylor, cover the MFWBD, cover the LBC 41, LBC 45, also cross protect the Bellmead extra board if it's exhausted, and the Hearn extra board if it is exhausted. This was changed on the final copy so that Fort Worth RE50 pool will take trains from Fort Worth to Dallas, dog catch trains from the east, cover the Fort Worth yard jobs, and then cross protect the RE55 dog catching and taking trains to Sweetwater now, if they are exhausted. The Fort Worth RE55 pool will cover trains from Fort Worth to Sweetwater, dog catching from Sweetwater, cover the Abilene local or the FWFW that goes out to Aledo, Weatherford, cross protect the RE50 pool if exhausted. This is also new on the final copy. So the DIT or Mesquite RE82, it's a little happy mistake there, Bob Ross. They will cover trains from Mesquite to Sweetwater. The Dallas RE85 will cover trains going from Dallas to Hearn, also dog catch trains headed to Dallas from Fort Worth or Longview that have at least made Terrell, and then Dallas yard drives. The Denison RE46 covers trains going from Denison to McAllister, dog catches trains headed to Denison from either direction, hours of service relief for trains headed to McAllister, the Roanoke local, Denison yard jobs, and the 48 job. The Chico RE44 covers Chico Rock Pool jobs, the LBJ 48, also dog catches Chico trains headed back to Chico. So the starting bids will come out. We'll put out these paper bid sheets like you see here, and you're going to fill it out just like you do, kind of like the paper bids, turn them in to our boxes, and then we'll collect those. The local chairman will collect those. So whenever you're bidding, you want to think of it basically in one of two different ways. You can't really have both, but what's the most important thing to you? Is it your work location, or is it the group that you want to be placed in for days off? Now, of course, you can't have both. You may, if you're really young, you may not have either. So but you want to think of it either work location or days off in that sense. Now, with the work location part of it, you can have, maybe a preference of what days off you want or what group you want to be in. But it's going to be similar to vacation, where there's a slim amount of people, there's a slim amount of engineers that actually get Christmas off. There's only so many slots. And so it's similar to that. So on this bid sheet here, you put your name, your employee number, and then from here, what you can do, if you don't really care about what group you're in, you just want to be on a specific board, what you could do is you could put, say, TP 250, and then say RE 46, if that's what you wanted, and then you could just write any. So you don't really care what group you're in, you just want to be on the RE 46. If you can't get anywhere there, then you want TP 250, RE 45, that's what your next preference is. So basically, this is your first choice, this is your second choice. If you don't get those two, what do you want third? So on and so forth. So the next bidding example you could do would be, say you have a work location you want to work, and then you also have preference of what groups you're going to be in, if you want to put that in an order. So you could do, say, TP 250, do RE 46, and then your first group that you would like is F. If you can't get that, G, H, I, J, and then maybe you go to E, D, C, B, A, K, L, M, N, O, and say that's your kind of preference. You can just drag this down here, drag that down there. You don't really have to write it down each time, right? And then say you want that same order, so you could just say same group order, but then you want it in RE50, RE45, right? And then say you don't get that, so you don't get those first 30 choices, then you want TP250, maybe the RE50, and then same group order. So you could just do it like that, that would be a way, just something to just translate explicitly what you desire. So this third example is something that, if you're the most important thing for you is your days off, so it's what group you're going to be in. So say that's going to be group F, and then you're like, okay, my preference would be TP250, RE45, and then maybe the RE50, and then the 65, and then the 55, and then the 46. And then after that, it's just, hey, I'll take any board, even in Dallas. That's a group F, and you can just write that kind of down. So then we know, and that's all we're looking for, is just, you need to give us information of exactly what you want. And you can write notes kind of on the bottom or whatever. Hey, this is the preferred group I want to be in, or this is what I'm looking for. You can write layman's terms down there on the bottom. That's cool. So we can just understand and see what you're wanting for this bid for the initial startup of this thing. And really, the most important thing I want to try to convey is, you need to put in a lot more bids in than you think you'll need. A lot more. So don't think that to only put one bid in or a couple of bids because you're the oldest person on a regular turn right now. So, for example, Spindor, we'll pick on him a minute. He's the oldest on the RE46, the most senior engineer. And so say he gets on there and he's like, okay, well, I'm the oldest guy. get exactly what I want. So I'll put RE46, and I want group. We'll go group D. He wants group D, and then when it pans out, um, that's the only bid he puts in. And if he doesn't get this because someone older than him bids on that first, he doesn't get that. So we got to scratch that line. Well, what's his second bid? Well, if you don't have a second bid, as far as assigning jobs, so this would be representing like a large pool. So say we'll just call this the RE65, and this would be if like the RE65 we had 90 spots on here. So say if it wasn't 90 and it was only 80, right? Then they would take out like 10 of these. So say maybe they'll take out N6 and then L6 and then just a few of these. I don't know whatever they give us, they'll give us the actual numbers. But basically, so like A would have 6 people in that group, B would have only 5, C would have 6, D would have 5, and then E would have 5, and so on. So, and if that equals 80, I don't know. I'm not trying to count here, but that's how that would go. So, say the first person, as we're going down the seniority roster, is Cedric Brown, which he is the most senior engineer on the 65 right now, and say he wants Group G. So then we'd put Ced in here in this spot, and then it would just go on, so on and so forth throughout the entire seniority roster. So this would be something smaller like the Fort Worth RE 46. And so, for example, like if they gave us 15 engineers on that board, there would be one person per group. And if it was 17, then they would tell us which other group gets the additional people. So they would spread it out. So they would maybe do B2 and then J2. So our example earlier with Spindor only putting in a bid for D. Well, if we come across a seniority roster before we get to Spindor and say Exum has his bid and he wants D, we're going to put Exum here. And then Spindor, when we get to his bid, he's not going to have a spot to go here in D. So that's where we're asking the question, where would we put him? So if you can help us help you put maybe 10x of the amount of bids you think you need. Just so there's plenty. We'd rather have more than not have enough. Now, somewhere real small, say like Chico, say they've got 7 engineers that are going to be on their board, then what CMS would do is probably just knock out every other group here. So that'd be 7 A, C, E, G, I, K, M. So, and then that's where we would plug folks in. All right, so here's a conclusion and some new information. So implementation is now May 20th. So on May 6th, tomorrow, CMS will give us the numbers, how many people will be on a board, what pods will be on, what pods will have how many numbers on each of that. So we'll get that information and be able to give that to y'all. May 13th, you no longer can trade turns or use the self-service seniority moves. That will be suspended until implementation, or I guess forever. Um, May 17th, the 4-on-1 and 5-on-1 will be mandatory, so that's going to keep you from going into federal arrest right at implementation. So May 20th will be the implementation. If you have vacation that week or around there, get with the local chairman that covers your vacation group and talk to them, and they'll get with CMS. So one final question that I had that I didn't put in the previous version of this was who needs to put a bid in. So every engineer that is working a job right now that you're on call. So basically, if your phone rings, then you go to work, you need to put a bid in. And the guys that are cut back, if you're cut back, you need to go ahead and just put a bid in. I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it and can't get a hold of you because you are trained. So anyway, y'all holler at us. Let us know if you got any questions. Call any local chairman or guys over your area, just whatever. So thank y'all. Bye.